they're in the prayed over in consecrated grounds. They can move around for a couple of days and then they go on. Sometimes they stay, and the ones who stay need help sometimes. And now remember, I'm 10 years old, and I'm taking all this in, and I'm seeing ghosts and spirits, and he's telling me this and that, and do this and don't say that. And this went on, from 10 years old to, I don't know, I was a teenager, and he always told me, don't say anything to nobody, don't tell nobody at school. If you do, they're going to call me and tell you you're sick.
Right, yes, because it's just not talked about.
Mm-hmm. He said, just keep it between you and me. What I didn't know at that time, he was training me to do other things, but I didn't know that. He was just doing it as a matter-of-fact thing, and this was between me and him, and it was something special, and he didn't want to scare me. So I started being trained by my dad at that age. And then as I grew older, he kind of let me go off on my own and experiment with things and talk to dead people and show them, he showed me what to do to cross them over and stuff like that. Well, I wanted to be a cop. I said, Dad, I want to be a police officer. He said, you can't be a police officer, son. Your leg is messed up. You've got a brace on. So one day I decided to take the brace off. I took that brace off and threw it away. And I started walking around and tried to run and all that kind of stuff. And all through high school and stuff like that, I had to wear that brace, so I didn't play any sports or anything. So I would go to study hall, and I would take extra courses and stuff like that to make up for my gym work to get me through high school. So about 18 years old, I decided to take that brace off and throw it away. So he said,
some things never change, do they, Willie?
Huh?
I said, some things never change, do they?
No. Oh, this is just young. I mean, we're just getting started.
I know.
So
that's
anyway,
what's so interesting about it.
So, through the various way, and I tried different things. I went through, I taught tutoring at school, and I worked on for U of L for a couple of years on their security force. So one day I decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead and take this police test and see if I can pass it. So, well, I passed it. And I was, I got sworn in as a policeman, and I was about 22 years old, and I went through the police course, and lo and behold, I passed, and I was able to do the physical stuff, and I went through the training and the physical, the police training and the driving courses and all that kind of stuff. So when I graduated, I got hired on as I guess you would call a marshal at the state fairgrounds. I was on the state fairgrounds police force. Well, at that time, on the side of the fairgrounds was said to be, used to be a Native American burial ground. So I would come on duty midnight to 8, and I would wander around there in my patrol car and make sure nothing was going on, and the fairgrounds was closed down, and the burial grounds was okay. So I would go and sit in the burial grounds and just watch, things, watch the road and make sure nobody came through there speeding. And but one morning about 2 o'clock, it was a fine mist coming down. I'm in my patrol car, and I was looking out my window, and I seen this figure start walking up towards the car. And I was watching. Finally, it was getting a little bit too close, so I hit my lights and got out and says, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" He kept walking. I said, "What are you doing here? And you better stop right now." And I put my hand on my gun, and I said, "Stop." He stopped, and he just stood there. Well, I could make out when he come into my light view, it was an Indian. And, old style Indian with, the bright clothes on and everything. And I said, "What's your name?" He just stood there and looked at me. "What's your name?" And he come walking towards me. I said, "That's far enough." So he stood there and smiled, and he said, "My name is Singing Fox."
Is what?
I said, "What are you doing?" Singing Fox.
Okay.
And I said, "What are you doing here?" He says, "I belong here." I said, "What do you mean you belong here?" He said, "I watch this land." And he looked me up and down. He says, "You're Indian, are you not?" Well, I said, "How do you know?" He said, "I know." And he kind of smiled at me, and then he disappeared. And I just stood there and looked at him.
Wow.
I said, "Well," By then I'd seen a lot of ghosts, and I talked to them. So but this one was solid. I thought I was talking to a solid person.
Willie.
So I got in my car and I said, "Huh?"
I have to stop you because I don't want to. We have to go to break, and I don't want to miss a second of this, or for our listeners too, either, because this is so important. We will be back in 3 minutes, and everyone, y'all just enjoy. We will be back as quick as we can to get through this.
Yeah, go take a pee break.
There you go. We'll be back.
You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, Birmingham, Alabama.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Welcome back to Paranormal Experienced Radio with my guest, Willie Windwalker Gibson. And I do need to let y'all know, though, that fantastic music is Watch Through My Senses by Super Rock. I just love that. So anyway, we are in mid-experience with Willie. As Willie, you were describing the gentleman that recognized you as native. And, you know, he was there actually doing what you were doing, just in a different capacity.
Yeah, well, to back up a little bit, to let the audience know, I am half Cherokee and half Irish. And I'm Cherokee on my father's side and Irish on my grandmother's side. So I had the best of both worlds growing up. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we went to a wake, you wouldn't believe what kind of party they would have. So, you know, half the people were black-haired and brown-eyed. The other half was red-haired and green-eyed or blonde. And I asked my dad, how did that happen? He said, that's your grandma's side of the family, son. So, you know, like I said, I'm Cherokee and Irish. Well, I'm sitting in a patrol car, and I've done met Singing Fox. I get back in my patrol car, and I don't know what to do. I don't want to put this down on any kind of report or anything, so I just let it slide. So the next night, I'm sitting pretty much in the same spot, he shows up again, and I get out and says, what are you doing here? He said, I belong here. I told you I belong here. And he looked me up and down. He said, you're Indian, aren't you not? I said, yes. He said, what's your Indian name? I said, I don't have one. He said, from this day forward, your name is Windwalker, he who walks with the spirits. I said, why my name is that? He says, you'll know. So when that happened, every night when I was on duty, he would show up and we would talk, and he would tell me things like, you're going to be a shaman, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do... I said, no, I'm a police officer. I'm going to stay. No, you're not. You're going to be a shaman. You're going to be a medicine man. You will not be doing this long. And, he would tell me things, he'd show me things, and this went on for about 6 months. So one day I went into the office, and something was eating at me, and the captain said, what's wrong, Willie? I said, Captain, I don't feel like I belong here. I don't feel like I belong to be a cop. He said, well, if you don't have that yearning to be a cop anymore, you don't need to be a cop no more. So I turned in my badge, and I quit. And I decided to go into the private sector, so I went out and got my private investigator's license, and I did private investigating on my own, and that way I was my own boss, and I didn't have to worry about anything. And as I was doing that, I was learning about the culture and what a shaman is, and I would go to different people that said they were shamans. I went to con people when I knew they were con when I went to them, and I knew the real person when I went to the real person.
Right.
And I would take training, see, and I would learn more and more and more. So I did all this. I did this for about 10 years, learning how to do things and what this was, what that was, and how to do this and how to do that. So about 1988, I was working for a local hotel. I was a supervisor of security there, and I was what is known as a security agent, which is a high-class name for a bodyguard. I would do, a bodyguard people that came in for the Derby, and I met all kinds of stars and things like that.
Right.
Well, that's where I met my wife, Shaman. She was on the cleaning staff, and I worked there with her for about a couple of years, but we're just people that just worked there. So one night I came in, and I had been to one of my teachers, and I was really tired, and I sat down in the lobby, and I fell asleep. So she woke me up about 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, you better wake up or somebody sees you and fires you. And she said, "What's wrong? Why you're so tired?" And I said, "Well, I'm taking some training." She said, "What kind of training?" And I told her what I could do. I told her I could see and hear spirits, and I've been taking trainings from a shaman lady that's been training me. She said, "I'm having some trouble in my apartment with something. Would you come by and see what's going on?" I said, "Sure." So the next night, I went over to her apartment. I went into her apartment, and I could feel something was going on there, something really, really nasty. And I did a walkthrough and all that, and I told her what was going on. And she said, I've been feeling something touch me during the night, too. I said, that don't sound good. So I brought another person that I'd been taking training with me one night. We went back to Shaman's apartment, and she did a walkthrough, so we need to do a clearing. So we started doing a clearing, and this thing appeared. Well, it was demonic, and we had a battle. This thing looked like, when it appeared, it looked like a black tornado. I mean, it was dark, and it was just swirling around, and we had already made our circle and did our prayers and everything, and finally we were able to trap this thing into a box we had. And we went out and buried it in sacred ground and got rid of it. Well, one thing led to another. Shaman and me started seeing each other. We wound up getting married, and now we've been together for 31 years. And through that 31 years, we've had a lot of adventures together. But I came out in 1988 and started helping other people. I would have people that had different groups would come and get me. So, we investigated this place. We wanted you to take a look and see what you think. And they would take me into a place, and it would be infested, and I would have to do a clearing, and I would do this for other groups. So, and I decided, it's time for me to go out on my own and start doing it on my own. So it was about 1988 when I came out professionally. So I've been doing this professionally. I mean, where I can go out and do other cases and things by myself for 30 some years. It was about 10 years ago I decided to form my